In this video, I'm going to show you how I designed this app from start to finish, from understanding the problem to doing research and designing the final experience. And also show you how I used AI to speed up my research and boost my workflow without letting it make design decisions for me. So grab your snacks, have a seat, and let's roll the intro. Now before getting into the project, I want you to understand the context. There is a local fish aquarium shop which has been around 17 years. So despite having the loyal customer base, they don't have any online presence. So every sale happens in person right now. My goal was to create a fish e-commerce website where customers can browse fishes and make more informed decisions before they bought it. So basically that's our problem statement. To design a fish e-commerce website. Now that I have initial context and knew what I want to build, the next step is to figuring out what customers actually struggling with and also their desires. Ideally, I would research customers through interviews and observations, but because I don't have enough access to customers or enough time to conduct large interviews, I have to work with what I had. So instead, I interviewed the business owner and the family members who work in the shop. They interact with customers every day. While this isn't same as talking to the customers directly, this gave me a way to understand the customer's behavior, the questions they ask, and also common problems that from the eyes of the people who see them firsthand. Before the interview, I put together a set of questions around key areas like this. How does the business work day to day? What types of customers come into shop, like from the complete beginners to experienced hobbyists? How do customers decide which fish to buy? What questions do they ask most often? And how does the owner guide someone towards a fish that's actually right to them? And what does the customer check before they recommend a fish to make sure it's compatible with the customer's setup? And finally, how does the shop make sure customers are happy with what they bought? So the goal wasn't just to learn how they sell fish, but to understand the decision-making part behind each sale and identify the guidance that comes naturally in the store, which would give me something that I could eventually translate into digital experience. After the interviews, I had a lot of raw information to work with. Since I conducted interviews in Telugu, what I did is I used Gemini to translate everything into English, and then I gave the transcript to the Claude to help synthesize the responses and organize the information into an affinity map. What you're seeing here is the synthesized data turned into sticky notes. But there is one more important thing that I need to point out here. Never take interview responses at surface level. What I mean to say is you have to understand the underlying motivation behind what someone is saying. For example, if a customer says, I want a goldfish, that's a response, right? But as a designer, I need to understand why they want the goldfish or what they are even expecting from it, and do they understand what it takes to take care for one? That's where the real insights come from. So looking at the affinity map, the first pattern that I noticed is why people actually come to the store. Most customers already have a fish in mind, but they actually have a reason for wanting one. It could be for decoration, stress relief, or a simply pet for children to play with. The problem is that they often think about fish first and maintenance later. For example, I get to know from the interview that many customers comes in wanting for a goldfish without realizing that they need more maintenance and proper oxygenation. So the owner has to explain maintenance, equipment and compatibility almost every time. This also becomes more important when they already have fish at home. Hobbyists usually come in knowing what fish they want, but owner has to make sure that the new fish is compatible with the fish that they already have. And this is where many of the recurring problems come from. The owner occasionally get these complaints about fish dying because of, improper water conditions, lack of maintenance, improper feeding, and not using the right equipment like the air pump, and incompatible fish. As you can see, there is a clear difference between beginners and the hobbyists. So basically, beginners usually need more guidance. So the owner tries to recommend low maintenance fish that are easy to take care and doesn't require any complicated equipment. While on the other hand, hobbyists come with the fish in their mind and the setup they already have, and their main concern is that they want a fish that is compatible with the fish that they already have. Another important pattern I noticed is customers often come with their tank or bowl size already in mind. So the owner's recommendation usually comes down to these three things. Why do you want the fish? What setup do you have? And what fish can actually live in that setup? Now that I had clearer understanding of customers and their needs, the next step was trying to figure out how should we lay the structure for the overall experience. So I started by creating sitemap, which based on everything that I learned from the research phase. Here I used Claude to generate initial structure. Basically, I gave all my research findings and asked it to help organize them, and I reviewed the output and made few changes so that it made sense for the business. Now I will walk you through the sitemap. So basically the experience starts with an onboarding process. So in this onboarding process, we will use a short questionnaire to understand the customer's needs, experience, and available space and what they are looking for. So I'll get into exact questions and how I structured them when I show you the information architecture. Leave it for right now. So once the onboarding is complete, it takes the customers to the home page where they will see personalized fish recommendations based on information they provided. Then they transition to the rest. From there, then the main navigation has three sections, which is tank, home, and search. For the tank section is where customers can see the fish they've selected and reserve them for pickup. And the home page is where they'll see their personal recommendations and suggestions and bestsellers, all those things. And coming to the search, it allows them to browse and look for specific fish. Customers can also select a fish to see important details like its lifespan, care, compatibility, and more details about it. Now, before I could build these recommendations and fish details, I actually need to define the actual information behind each fish. So what I did is I sat down with the business owner and created this table together. We documented things like the fish name, price, and why people buy it, care requirements, compatibility, and other important details. Basically, it would be used to power the recommendations and determine what information customers see when they open a fish details. Now for the MVP, I decided to focus only on 15 to 17 fishes because that's enough variety to test the core experience without trying to build an entire fish database from day one. Now I took the completed table and research findings and gave everything to Claude to generate an initial structure for information architecture. So just like the sitemap, I didn't trusted the output blindly. Instead, I tweaked some things and make sure that it made sense for the overall experience. Before showing you the information architecture, I need to mention that there are some edge cases which I intentionally left out for the MVP. For example, let's say some fish technically can live in a bowl, but a larger tank is usually recommended, especially as they grow or have babies. And there is other edge case like some fish can also fall into multiple categories. Like a fish might be popular for both its appearance and vastu. So the real world classification isn't always clean. For this MVP, I want to keep the logic simple so that I can focus on validating the core experience. And about the edge cases, I will be checking out in the future scope. Anyway, this is what I ended up with. I started with all 17 fish in the MVP and looked at different information we had collected for each one. From there, I organized the information into three main areas. The first is the information we need to show on each fish card, like price, size, lifespan, whether it needs an air pump, and whether it should be bought as a pair or individually. Then comes the second, why people buy the fish. So From the research, we saw that customers usually come into the store with a specific purpose. So I grouped the fish based on those reasons, such as fish that are fun to watch, fish bought for vastu or decoration, tank cleaning fish, or fish that are popular because they have babies. The third is the buyer's situation. This includes things like compatibility and available space. Some fish can live in bowl while others need a tank. Some can live with certain species but shouldn't be kept with the others. So this is where the onboarding process comes in. Earlier I mentioned that the onboarding starts with small questionnaire. This is where those questions actually came from. The first thing we need to understand is, do they already have fish at home? This is important because if they already have fish at home, they need to buy the compatible fish with the existing one. The second thing we need to ask is, how much space do they have? It could be a bowl, an existing tank, or a space they are planning to use for a tank. And then we can understand why they are getting that fish. We are not asking the questions just for the sake of collecting data, but we want to narrow down to the right fish that the customer wants. And that's it for this video. The footage is too long, so I have to make two parts. This is part 1, and for the second part, I will upload it as soon as I'm done with the post-production. So consider subscribing to see it. With that being said, I hope you like this video, and comment down if you have any questions down below in the comments, and I will see you in the part 2. Peace.